Good rising, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. I am Taylor Andre. Waking up with Taylor Andre has absolutely nothing to do with the time of day we link up, but about waking up your third eye with unorthodox conversations leading to universal consciousness. And today with me is Donna. Last time we only had her on the phone. She started her law career 40 years ago in litigation with the law firm Gilman. What is it?
Hanrahan.
Hold on, say that again.
Gilman, McLaughlin, and Hanrahan.
That's how you say McLaughlin. Okay.
I think there's lots of other ways to say it. That's the way I say it.
I got you. During her active tenure, she's dope. All right. Been an attorney for a very long time. She knows what she's talking about. She understands that inequities take place and people do need help. She started this program. This is everything that you need to know. She has the answers to it. So if we had the previous question, we had very surface level conversations and Q&A about what the program is, what it does, and how it can be helpful. This woman was the curator. So anything that you want to know, this is the person that we are speaking with today. How are you? And thank you.
Oh my gosh, thank you. And what an introduction. I hope I live up to the expectations, but I certainly will try. And I'm so excited to see you again, this time in person.
Yes. So please tell us, like, in the beginning, explain to us in the beginning, like even going back to why you wanted to become an attorney.
Oh gosh. Why did I want to become an attorney? I think I always wanted to help people. I was an advocate from, I think, the minute I was born. And my dad was a lawyer. I thought it would be a great way to be involved with advocating on, in a very particular way. I always knew I wanted to be a litigator. I thought I was going to be the new Perry Mason. I didn't get to be the new Perry Mason, but I did carve out a way for myself to be able to help through litigation. And being a woman attorney in litigation, getting my chance actually by doing evictions, because women weren't litigators way back a minute ago.
What is a litigator exactly?
So a litigator is someone who generally we fight in court. That's sort of the vision people have. But our true role is to meet a client, find out what the challenges are that they have, do the legal research, help them strategize the pros and cons to be able to get to the result they need. And then if they need to go to court, then we'll go to court and fight for them. But if not, we will help them negotiate to be able to be in a place where at least they feel that they've been heard and they get what they need. Won't always be they get what they want, but it will be they get what they need.
That's interesting that you said that they will be heard, to be heard in the court of law, to have your side at least considered. The question that we have, like I just want to get into the viewers' questions instead of my own personal, as far as like medical malpractice is concerned. Is that something that you all can help with? I got a text message that said, what about employment and like wrongful terminations?
So I'm going to move off of the landlord-tenant piece and move on to the General Volunteer Lawyers Project, which is larger than the piece of the project that we got the chance to work with, which is low-income landlords. We do have a division of employment law, so I would encourage anyone who has a challenge in that regard to go to the website and find that section. We don't do medical malpractice, but it's the type of organization that if you were to call, they would probably be able to send you some resources or direct you in the right place. But we don't, I'm not aware that we do any medical malpractice cases, sorry.
Okay, well, that was perfect. Thank you. I'm glad we got that question answered. Let's talk to our lower income landlords and what kind of help. Like we got tenants that haven't paid rent since before the pandemic. They don't even want to apply for anything. So it's not an easy transaction. I can't tell you how many times I have heard that over the last 3 years. Like the tenants won't even apply for funds so I can get paid.
Right. And when you're a low-income landlord, you said it perfectly. I couldn't even say it better. I think you should work for us. When, no matter what kind of a landlord, large, small, low income, English is a second language, unable to access the justice system, unable to understand the laws. And let's face it, I think Massachusetts is one of the most difficult states to be able to be a landlord that complies with all the laws that are out there. In addition to that, how do you get your rent? How do you make your repairs when you have a tenant who isn't or can't pay rent, isn't or won't cooperate with all of these rental assistance programs that are out there that would help pay their rent so that they can stay where they are? It's frightening. I don't even have a better word than it's frightening to be living next door in a 2 or 3 family home for a low income landlord and have a tenant turn around and I'm repeating what people say to me. I'm not paying rent. There's not a goddamn thing you can do about it. And in many ways, that is absolutely positively true. So we try the best we can to work within the system, to get creative, to get strategic, to figure out ways that we can help have landlords be heard, have landlords get their rent, or if they can't get their rent, help them with an eviction. Move on to the next tenant who's can and interested in cooperating. I think that's the best we can do.
Have you and so that's why there's funding that does exist for the landlord, but there's also funding that exists for the tenant. And so what are some of the reasons that you have found like tenants don't want to apply?
So, we started off with tenants who didn't want to apply or refused to apply, thinking that they could maybe get a free ride. But that's not the case all the time. And I want to be fair to the tenants who really would like to be able to access the rental assistance programs. It's not an easy program to navigate. And there's a lot of information that they ask for. And it's online, and you have to upload documents. And sometimes they're not in the same language that maybe is your first choice of language, especially in these complicated times. There are income requirements before money is approved to be paid to a landlord, and there's limitations. So back in the day when we started the pandemic, there were unlimited funds to cover rental assistance, utility assistance, moving expenses, which is another option that tenants have an opportunity to apply for. But now it's capped, and it's capped at $10,000. So in some cases, even though a tenant would like to be able to access those funds, if the rent that's owed is over $10,000, the RAAs won't approve the payments unless you can find another way to make up the balance. And in some cases, these applications get dismissed without even having been looked at. So it's important at this point not to be fighting each other, but working together to access what's available. And then outside of the tenants, there's also an opportunity for landlords to apply through, it's called HAF, H-A-F as in Frank, HAF program. That's a mortgage assistance program. So if you're behind in your mortgage more than 3 months, there's programs out there that may be able to help you. And there are a lot of rules and requirements and regulations that will prevent a bank from foreclosing on you. So if you're a landlord or a property owner and you get a foreclosure letter, fight for yourself. Come to us.
I'm so glad you said that. So as a real estate agent, I do understand like the BPOs are crazy right now. The BPOs that were in the summertime were like 7 max. Right now we're seeing like 48, 52 BPOs, which is, the banks saying, we want to know, what is this going to appraise for? What can we put it on the market for? What can we sell it for? Because people are back on their mortgage, and the hammer will be coming down, as far as a lot of landlords or owners as a whole are concerned. And so I would love for you guys to take down this number and make sure you have it handy in case you or a loved one is getting a letter from the bank for foreclosure. Because believe it or not, if you're even late on one payment, you're in pre-foreclosure technically. If you miss that 15th and now you are late, you're technically in pre-foreclosure. I know in Massachusetts, I've seen clients that didn't get foreclosed on until like payment 246, but but nonetheless, they got foreclosed on. And so it's a great resource to have an attorney in your back pocket that you can at least call to ask a question, and be guided in the right directions, because we don't have the answers and do not know how to navigate the system.
It's Taylor, you hit the nail on the head. It's a complicated system, and it's hard to, it's even hard for a lawyer in many cases to navigate. We've developed over time relationships with some people in the federal government who are really advocating for homeowners and holding banks' feet to the fire. We don't want to lose moderately priced housing. And
exactly.
Our 2 and 3 family homeowners, we're losing moderately priced housing.
Yeah. Yeah. And so where does this funding come from? And I remember when we first spoke, it was just like, if you have questions, you might want to hurry up and ask them, because this money is not going to be here forever. And so it came back, thankfully. But how do you all get funded? Like, how can funders fund? Or, maybe I do have a couple dollars and I did benefit from having a pro bono and I want to be helpful financially. How does that work?
Oh, thank you for asking that. So Volunteer Lawyers Project, the general program overall, is a nonprofit. So we take donations, we take sponsors, and we take supporters. We are always looking, since we're a new program, for someone who may want to continue the funding to help low-income landlords with the areas that we help in. And our program itself currently is funded by the Department of Community and Housing Development. It was federally funded, and the short name for it is DHCD, is now extended our grant, and we are going to be funded through June of 2024.
Yes.
But when we're funded, let's not misunderstand the funding. We are not a government agency. We've only got 2 lawyers. We cover the entire state, which is 6 housing courts and 48 district courts. We have 3 paralegals who work their asses off. Sorry, can you say that?
Yes, we can.
Trying to help people upload documents and get financial assistance and reach out to lawyers when you need, let's say you need help with a notice to quit. Let's say you need help with a tenant has asked you for repairs, but you can't afford it because you're not collecting the rent. Where do you go? And even if you don't qualify for us, we have lawyers who are doing educational programming. So yes, we're a nonprofit. We take any amount of money at any time, and we do look for sponsors. And Taylor, thanks for letting us say that, because I know that it's really important to get it out there. And I'm not on a fundraising call, but since you mentioned it, thank you.
Well, I understand that. So we went over the numbers earlier with Joanna, and she was like, these attorneys are donating their time starting off at like $250 an hour upwards to $450 an hour. And I'm like, that's a lot of money. And she answered, like, if you have an issue with credit and you're in court for credit or you're in court for housing, the program as a whole, because I know specifically this is the housing program, but the program as a whole, to be able to call and get your questions answered, that's retainer money. And so I know it's not cheap.
No, and I agree with you. If people were to go on the website and look at all the different areas that Volunteer Lawyers Project helps with, and click on some of the links for education, how much money does that save?
Mm-hmm.
Retainers for a lawyer. And then if you qualify for our services, use us. We have partners with the University of Massachusetts School of Law. We have a partner with the Hampden County Legal Clinic. We have partners with some of the bar associations. We have volunteer lawyers that help us and volunteers that help us. But let's face it, on my law program, you hear the word landlord and everybody starts to think someone's out on a yacht in St. Bart's and doesn't know what properties are in what condition and who their landlords are. We are talking about people who live in the same property. They know exactly who each other is. They know their families. They're in a difficult situation. Let's help them.
Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for that. And so one of the things that we try to go over with Joanna, and she said, you know what, save this for Donna, was the
Uh-oh.
numbers and what it looks like for the numbers. And so I do not think that the poverty limit right now for one single person needs to be 13,000. I think it's bonkers. It should be at least 26. But it's 200% times what one person is. And so what would it look like for like a family of 4 that needs help?
Oh my gosh. That is something that is calculated in our office.
Okay.
And I wouldn't propose to guess what it is, except to wholeheartedly agree it's too low. How do you qualify? How do you help the population? And why would they make that so low?
Mm-hmm.
What I can tell you is we have made an effort to, at least for the qualification for this program, to raise it to 300% of the federal poverty level. And I don't know who decided that number in the federal government, and I don't know why it hasn't moved up since then, because who can live on that? That's frightening.
It is. It is. So we know Massachusetts is a tenant state. Why do landlords feel like Massachusetts is a tenant state? Like, what laws are in place that protect a tenant to a point where landlords feel neglected?
That's a fair question. There is a presumption in favor of a tenant in every single law that's been written. Currently, during the pandemic, in order to sustain tenancies and avoid homelessness, the housing court has stopped the process of proceeding with an eviction. You know, there was a time a landlord, if they weren't collecting rent, could send a 14-day notice to a tenant, and if they didn't clear their balance, could go into court. And the idea was, in some short version of time, hopefully, they would either get the money, reinstate the tenancy, or evict the tenant. And the process has been held up. If a tenant is applying for rental assistance, for example, the case will be put on hold. Unfortunately for all landlords at this point, the housing court is backed up. We have 2 cases that have been going on for 2 years. And in one case, some rent was paid, but not all. I know, right? The system is clogged up.
Hold on. I need clarification. Okay. So you guys have been in the system for 2 years, and so there was no payment prior to those 2 years, because landlords usually don't wait 14 days. It's usually like 3-4 months before they actually take someone to housing court for non-payment.
That's true.
So it's like 2.5 years that they haven't paid. So what would that even look like for a landlord who's currently experiencing that?
You mean other than pure hell? Seriously? Huh?
Yeah, but no, yes, other than pure hell, like legally, what does that look like? Just sitting in a file waiting for a judge to hear the case where the tenant is complaining, like they called 1010 Mass Ave and was just like, this ceiling is falling through, and like the ceiling really isn't falling. It's, you don't turn the fan on in the bathroom when you take a shower. Like, I don't, I'm just saying, like, whatever it is, they
Yep.
make complaints that are not valid complaints, which keep it going back and forth. And now the landlord has to fix this thing. And my office actually had a professional tenant. Like, we talk about the professional tenant that like called the police on certain instances in order to work the system, and has been living rent free for 2 years.
We actually, now I don't want people to think that every tenant,
It's
that
not.
it's
It's
the system needs help, and the landlords need help, and the tenants need help, and really, when everybody works together, there are good results. But for the gamers that you just referred to, Taylor, we did have a case, and absolutely no money was paid. The apartment was completely trashed. Elderly woman, lived alone, threatened with a gun, threatened with an aggressive dog. They shot
no.
her family. It was a duplex. Wouldn't move out, used every opportunity to, I'm not going to say take advantage of the system, because taking advantage of the system helps, but to abuse the system. And I will tell you that when we finally got the eviction and the move out, the police called her and said, congratulations. And
Wow.
but she did have to repair the apartment in order to re-rent it. And those are some of the really sad cases. Now, I'm going to give you another example. Here's security deposits. Most people feel, if I'm going to rent to a tenant, I'm going to get a security deposit just in case something goes wrong with the apartment. I can use that to be able to make a repair after the tenant moves out, right? We hear about that in general. The way the security deposit law works, it is so complicated to be able to keep the money in the right place and to use it at the right time and to pay the right interest and to notify the tenant of its of some of the requirements under the statute, that many lawyers, and including our office in some cases, recommend that a landlord not take a security deposit, because one false move, even if you didn't intend it to be that way, it was a mistake, it wasn't on purpose, you didn't try and hurt anybody or steal, you would you forfeit your security deposit. You have to pay the tenant 3 times the security deposit plus attorney's fees. How much money is that? Is
A
it
lot.
a security deposit? The law is so complicated that in many instances, we do not recommend taking a security deposit. That's rules. That's very pro tenant. And it came about for a good reason. A lot of times we are suffering from unintended consequences. So the security deposit originally was put in place, that law, so that landlords weren't just taking the money and running with it. And there was some protection for a tenant, because the money belongs to the tenant until it's owed to the landlord. But it's now gotten so complicated that unless you're a professional landlord, it's very difficult to comply with that law.
So that's actually one of the things that I told, because I no longer do rental as a real estate agent, but that I tell all of my owner investors, like, do not take a security. If you want to take first and last, that's fine. But as far as security is concerned, like, even last, you still have like laws that you have to follow for last. Last aren't as stringent as security, but they still exist. And if you don't know what you're doing, and if you don't properly navigate the system the way that you're supposed to, and you have a professional tenant, yeah, you could be eaten up in court. And so to be extremely mindful. And if tenants have questions, can they call, not tenants, if landlords have questions about, the steps of doing it the right way as far as security deposits, can they call?
Absolutely. One of the great things about this, our housing program, is that, first of all, it's virtual. So call or sign up for help from the comfort of your home, and do it at a time that's convenient for you. How tough is it to be able to try and answer these questions, or even know the right questions to ask when you're standing in a courtroom? Call ahead of time. We have educational resources on the website, but our program is all virtual. So we can talk to you on the phone. We can talk to you by Zoom. We can email back and forth. There are lots of opportunities. We have 4 free 15-minute advice sessions, and we have limited assistance representation. So if you have a question that's not a quick question, sign up for the assistance of one of our lawyers. And if you have a financial question, we have 3 paralegals working on financial applications all day long, Monday through Friday.
And so everything can be found on the website, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so as you guys can see, it's vlpnet.org, and the website is pretty easy to navigate, so I don't see you having a problem there. But if you don't have or don't do internet, 617-603-1700. What about language barriers? How, do you have attorneys that, are from different countries that speak different languages?
Great question. I also want to share a private telephone number that you may share with your audience. We have a direct landlord advocacy line. The telephone number you gave out is our General Volunteer Lawyers Project line, where you can get a lot of assistance in a lot of areas. We've instituted a direct line for landlords. So may I share that number as well?
Yes.
857
Yeah.
2064.
Oh, you're breaking up. We got 857
320 6452.
Okay. And this is for landlords only.
Right. It's a direct line right into our office. The translation question, each of our paralegals are bilingual, Spanish and English, but we have translation services available.
Okay. Awesome.
We can cover many other languages if someone prefers to be part of that system.
Okay. And let's say, for instance, I am an up and coming attorney and I want to learn a little bit more. I think this would be amazing to add on to my application for whatever it is that I'm applying for. And so I want to volunteer as an attorney. What do I, maybe a paralegal, or I feel like being a part of this conversation would allow me to hyper learn anything, because you're in the.
We want you.
I'm not an attorney. But I feel like you could, your learning curve would be crazy. Just 1 year in this office, and you would have seen more experiences than half the attorneys that get paid $450 an hour, because of how many people are in need and how many varieties of topics you would have access to.
Absolutely. We have programs for law students to be able to assist and volunteer, and we have programs for paralegals to assist and volunteer. We also have programs for anyone who wants to assist and volunteer. We're prepared to train you. We're prepared to let you shadow. We are prepared to mentor you. And because the population that we serve is low income and in some cases uneducated in the law and the process and the strategy of the best way to get from point A to point B, you do see a lot more interesting stories. But I'll tell you one other thing that is rewarding. You also get the most amazing appreciation. Many of our clientele will say, we've never met you in person, but we thank the Lord that you were there and you helped us. We never could have done it on our own. And how amazing is that, to put in all that effort to be able to help someone and have them be so very appreciative of it.
Mm-hmm. And so this is a question that didn't come up with Joanne, but I wonder if you have the answer. What if I have a family member that's currently incarcerated and we're looking to navigate their case?
So is this a criminal case or a housing case?
I have no idea. I'm just throwing it. I'm just like,
Throwing it out there. Okay.
yeah, for example.
You did that last year. You're good. The criminal side of the law, we do not get involved with. We may be able to advise and refer. But we are not criminal. We're not criminal lawyers.
Okay.
And if you're incarcerated and you need some assistance within the criminal system, you should have someone who knows what they're talking about.
She said, and that's not us.
I cannot say that so bluntly.
But as far as housing is concerned, they have that down packed. And so you can get any and all of your questions answered for the landlords only line. And that is 857-320-6452. Again, that number is 857-320-6452. That is for landlords only that are in need of help with whatever tenant issues you may or may not be going through. And so I would absolutely put that in your phone. People are 2 years clogged up in housing court. And so I would say preventative maintenance is the best way to go and get your questions answered in advance rather than waiting until a situation pops off.
Taylor, thank you for that. And we do have the Volunteer Lawyers Project does immigration. We do employment. We have a bankruptcy unit. We have a lot of units that may be available to help people. So I browse through the website and find out what else is available.
Thank you, Donna. It was a pleasure seeing you. I love your hair. I have to say that. I love grays.
Oh, thank you. You are great to have us. You rock. You totally rock. I wish you every great success, and call us whenever you need us. I think you have my phone number.
You know what? I do not, but I would love to connect after the show and discuss more.
I'll make sure you get my personal cell phone number.
Thank you, Donna. I am Taylor Andre. Waking Up with Taylor Andre has absolutely nothing to do with the time of day we link up, but about waking up your third eye with unorthodox conversations leading to universal consciousness. I thank you. I love you. I appreciate you. And I hope you have an amazing day. Mwah.
Thank you.